We're gonna get to the real reason in a second, and it probably has to do with Epstein. So that's a hell of a twist. But first, we started this project in 1962, and it's still not finished. The Chinese are laughing their ass off at us.
Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who historically speaking has been a massive defender of President Donald Trump's, is now raging over Trump's veto of a water project bill that would help tens of thousands of Americans access clean drinking water. Many of them live in Boebert's district. Now, the veto was one of Trump's first in his second term, and we'll get into the details in just a second. But before we do, Cenk, I mean, how good does it feel to know that people are finally waking up to this whole charade, right? This idea that Trump wants to put America first.
Oh, it feels great. So there could be a couple of reasons why he's targeting Colorado in specific, but the most interesting one is political retribution for against Lauren Boebert. So why does he continually now attack his own side? We're gonna explain here.
So last night, President Trump vetoed the Finish the Arkansas Valley Conduit Act, which aimed to basically complete a 130-mile pipeline that would bring fresh drinking water to rural communities in southeastern Colorado. So the fight to complete this pipeline has spanned literally, the story about this pipeline is literally insane, okay? It spans decades because here in America, we can't build anything, apparently. So the project initially received approval in 1962, okay? But construction was stalled for years because local government didn't have the resources to repay the costs of building this pipeline to the federal government. So the federal government is supposed to front the money, and then the local government is supposed to pay the federal government back. So according to the Colorado Public Radio, the original legislation required the state and communities that benefit from this project to fund 100% of the costs. And then Barack Obama and Congress decided, okay, we're gonna provide 65% of the funding through the federal government. They made this decision back in 2009. So that means it leaves 35% to be covered through local funds, which would have been repaid to the government over a period of 50 years, meaning the federal government would front 35%, but that 35% has to be paid back by local government. And the local government agreed to that. They thought that was a great plan. Now, according to the new bill, which Lauren Boebert co-sponsored with Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet, by the way, the bill will ensure the federal government makes good on its promise to southeastern Coloradans to deliver a safe and reliable water supply. We have invested over $550 million to build the Arkansas Valley Conduit over the past decade, and now we must ensure increased costs don't stop this project in its tracks. The Finish the AVC Act would remove interest payments on all non-federal cost share funds and extend the repayment period from 50 to 100 years. The bill helps make sure that underserved communities of southeastern Colorado can access clean drinking water and repay the federal government. The estimated cost of the project more than doubled from the 2019 estimate of $640 million to $1.3 billion due to increased inflation and labor costs. So I should note, this is very important, especially when you consider how divided our country is based on party identity. The bill passed both the House and the Senate unanimously. Everyone wants this project to move forward. Americans deserve clean drinking water, okay? Now, Trump decided to veto it anyway. And he says this, enough is enough. My administration is committed to preventing American taxpayers from funding expensive and unreliable policies. Ending the massive cost of taxpayer handouts and restoring fiscal sanity is vital to economic growth and the fiscal health of the nation. What about the health of those Coloradans in rural Colorado who need access to clean drinking water? How about their health? And you want to talk about fiscal responsibility when you just approved another $8 billion for Israel? A country committing atrocities, genocide, land theft. But not everyone sees it the way that Trump does. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that the bill would cost the federal government less than $500,000. So the US Bureau of Reclamation calls the conduit a major infrastructure project that upon completion will provide water to 39 communities and 50,000 people in Southeast Colorado. A Republican congressman, Jeff Hurd, was also a co-sponsor on the House version of the bill. And he clarified that the vetoed legislation did not authorize new construction spending or expand the federal government's original commitment. More than $200 million has already been invested alongside significant state and local contributions. Further delay risks stranding taxpayer dollars and leaving communities without a viable path to meeting drinking water standards. And Lauren Boebert is absolutely furious about it. She initially posted about it on X, saying like this isn't over yet. But she also said in a subsequent statement that Trump decided to veto a completely non-controversial bipartisan bill that passed both the House and Senate unanimously. Why? Because nothing says America first like denying clean drinking water to 50,000 people in Southeast Colorado, many of whom enthusiastically voted for him in all three elections. Well, he doesn't have to worry about re-election again, so who cares, right? He obviously doesn't give a damn about their support and is totally fine with them not having access to clean drinking water. It's so disgusting and pathetic, Cenk.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get to the real reason in a second, and it probably has to do with Epstein. So that's a hell of a twist. But first, we started this project in 1962, and it's still not finished. The Chinese are laughing their ass off at us. Like they get cities built in like, I don't want to exaggerate and say weeks, but months, right? They get amazing projects done over and over again. And so a lot of times the Republicans blame the Democrats. Oh, we can't get anything done because of your bureaucracy. Well, who just killed this project? Trump did. So now we're gonna have to wait, another decade, 2 decades, even though it was unanimous? By the way, like the unanimous part is both because it's logical and it has no opponents, but also it's a Republican district, it's a blue state. Probably it'll be some union jobs, probably it'll go to a corporation to build it, etc. But it is actually necessary. Now there are wildly different numbers here, even among the ones we just read you, right? Some say we've already spent 200 million, some say we've already spent 550 million. Okay, either way, we've already spent a tremendous amount of money, and I don't want that to go to waste, right? Some say, hey, it'll take 500,000 to finish for the federal government, and some say a hell of a lot more. But either way, there's literally only one person opposed to this in the entire US government, and that's Donald Trump. So why is he opposed to it? And that's where we go to the last part of Lauren Boebert's statement, graphic 8. She says, I sincerely hope this veto has nothing to do with the political retribution for calling out corruption and demanding accountability. Americans deserve leadership that puts people over politics. So what do you think, Anna? Is he spiting her because she was one of the 4 Republicans who voted to release the Epstein files initially?
Let me just be very clear that there's one thing that Trump does very well, and that's political retribution. Okay, he is a petty bitch. Like that's who Trump is. And so he has no problem with 50,000 red-blooded Americans being denied access to clean drinking water, even though Congress unanimously supported this bill. Like, see, this is what I'm talking about. I loathe our government, not because I'm some anti-government, lunatic. I loathe our government because they don't care about our people at all. While Trump and his cronies are looting this country and sending our resources abroad to foreign wars, he's gonna go ahead and deny Americans clean drinking water because he's a petty bitch over the Epstein files and Lauren Boebert's support for being transparent with the American people and releasing the files. Ugh, he disgusts me. And any politician like him, I don't care what their party affiliation is. I'm sick of Americans being like neglected. I'm sick of these politicians who sign up to be public servants, but they're anything but. This guy is just pure scum, honestly. He just is. It's the truth.
So last 2 things on this. He also hates Colorado because Jared Polis, the governor there, he thinks, and by the way, the Republican Attorney General who actually did it, convicted Tina Peters of voter fraud, and she was on Trump's side in 2020. But she actually did do voter fraud. Republicans claim that voter fraud is the thing that they care most about. That's why a Republican Attorney General put her away. But now he's like, Jared Polis should rot in hell. And the idiot thought he could pardon Tina Peters, so he did. And then they had to tell him, Mr. President, it's not a federal case, it's a state case. You can't pardon her, plus you're a moron. And then finally though, Anna, so those are, he hates Colorado for actually doing something about voter fraud. He hates Lauren Boebert for actually doing something about Epstein files. And the press always paints it as Marjorie Taylor Greene or Boebert or MAGA like betraying Trump. No, Trump is betraying them, right? So that's crystal clear, and I wish they'd report it right. And finally, this just broke as we were doing the story, Anna. Trump announced a freeze of all child care funding to every state. No child care funding at all. But yesterday, we announced $8.6 billion to Israel.
Yep.
So sorry guys, your children are not important. Give us the money back. We got to send it to Israel. Plus we have to go to war in Venezuela, plus Iran, plus everything else. And because that's what the military industrial complex and Israel and all my donors want. And my donors didn't say anything about your children, so now they don't have any money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. And so you can understand why Trump's own base has turned on him, because this isn't the first example of Trump turning on his base. I mean, they really thought that this guy was serious about uncovering the rot of the deep state, of doing something about the corruption, even though he himself, in his first campaign, made it clear that he took advantage of and benefited from our system of corruption. Now, of course, he was on the side of bribing our politicians to the detriment of the American people. But why would anyone think that he would get elected into office and fix that or want to change that? No, this guy, I mean, and look at what he did in the first, I would say 3 months of his second term. He came in, he signed a ton, hundreds of executive orders, but the only thing he actually really cared about in terms of passing through legislation, which has staying power, was additional tax cuts for the rich. And in that same big, beautiful bill, right? What else was included? Additional cuts to public services that Americans, vulnerable Americans, needy Americans rely on. And all those executive orders that he signed, all of them have been getting challenged in the courts. Many of them, by the way, on the taxpayer's dime, of course. And now many of them are getting reversed. The latest is the ICE deployments, the National Guard deployments in various blue cities. He just announced today, because he lost in the federal courts, that he's going to bring those National Guard troops back and no longer deploy them in places like Chicago and Los Angeles. So he hasn't done anything for his base at all. And I think they're now very aware of that. And that's a good thing. I think it's important for people to be wide-eyed about the corruption and rot in our government.
Yep. And at this point, it's so interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 3 years, because the establishment is not going to give an inch. They're going to keep funneling tens of billions to Israel, tens of billions to the oil companies, hundreds of billions to the defense contractors, maybe even trillions to big pharma. And they're not going to negotiate drug prices. They're not going to do any of that. We told you from day one, and this is why I'm gratified to see that a lot of people across the political spectrum are beginning to trust our analysis now. What did we tell you is the only bill that Trump would pass? Tax cuts for the rich. What's the only one he passed? Tax cuts for the rich. Otherwise, it is a historically inactive Congress. It's the most do-nothing Congress in American history. Basically, only one major piece of legislation, and that was tax cuts for their own donors. The only thing they did otherwise is appropriate more money for the Pentagon and the pork that goes there. They didn't ask for them to pass any audits, and they loaded up Israel with more money.
Yeah, I mean, there are small things that are set to expire eventually, right? The no tax on tips, up to a certain amount, and it will be, dependent on overall income of the tipped worker. But there's a lot of nickel and diming of ordinary Americans, whereas lots of big favors have already been done for the elite, the very people that Trump purported to want to fight back against, which no one should have believed.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.